San Diego, 1992. A road crew grinds to a halt as paleontologists uncover mastodon bones, fractured as if by ancient hands and scattered with battered stones from a vanished world. Dating reveals the site is 130,000 years old, shattering every timeline we thought we knew for human arrival in America. But if no modern humans were here, who was? The real mystery begins with the first piece of evidence. Richard Cerutti crouched beside the exposed silt, brushing away grains to reveal the curve of a mastodon tusk. The bones lay scattered nearly 9 feet below the surface, locked in ancient streambed clay. At first, the scene suggested just another Pleistocene fossil, a catalogue of ribs, vertebrae and teeth. But something about the arrangement gave pause. Some bones were snapped clean through, not with the jagged edges of slow decay or crushing weight, but twisted as if wrenched apart in a single violent moment. Spiral fractures, the kind that only form when fresh bone is struck with force, ran down femurs and molars. Nearby, 5 heavy stones sat clustered among the fragments. These were not local pebbles washed in by water. Each was larger than a human fist, their surfaces battered and pitted, marked by impacts that matched the scars on the bones themselves. Dr. Tom Demir, leading the San Diego Natural History Museum team, paused the construction work on State Route 54 to investigate. The site, later named for Cerutti, quickly shifted from a routine salvage dig to a forensic puzzle. The bones were not just broken, they were broken with intent. Some fragments could be refitted like pieces of a shattered branch, the breaks fresh when the animal died. The cobbles, out of place in the fine silt, bore the unmistakable signs of use, percussion marks, flattened faces, and minute traces of bone residue pressed into their surfaces. There were no knives or spear points, no flaked stone tools, only these hammerstones and anvils, simple yet deliberate. The pattern was clear. Bones were arranged in 2 tight clusters, with the largest limb bones shattered, while more fragile ribs and vertebrae remained whole. This selective destruction pointed to a practiced hand. The evidence ruled out scavenging animals, whose teeth leave ragged marks, and geological forces, which scatter and crush indiscriminately. The site had been undisturbed since the Pleistocene, sealed beneath layers of silt. Each detail, spiral fractures, battered stones, bones broken while still green, hinted at a story far older and stranger than any textbook had prepared them for. The team faced a puzzle. Who had wielded these stones, and how could their handiwork have survived for over 100,000 years beneath the California earth? Standard dating methods offered no easy answers. The mastodon bones, stripped bare of collagen by time, could not be tested with radiocarbon. In their place, a more advanced approach took center stage. Dr. James Paces, a geochronologist with the US Geological Survey, received nearly 100 tiny samples from the Cerutti site. He relied on uranium thorium dating, a technique that measures how uranium absorbed after burial decays into thorium within bone. Each sample underwent careful cleaning, acid etching, and separation of outer and inner layers to rule out contamination. The process was repeated across multiple fragments, with blanks and replicates to catch any errors. The results converged: 130,700 years old, with an uncertainty of just under 10,000 years. Every test, every control, and every model pointed to the same staggering age. The bones had been broken and buried during the last interglacial, when mammoths still roamed the California coast. Skeptics questioned whether the fractures could have been caused by the heavy machinery that uncovered the site. To answer this, Dr. Steve Holan and his team turned to experiment. They collected fresh elephant bones because of their similarity to mastodon, and they struck them with stone hammers and anvils, mimicking the tools found at Cerutti. The results were unmistakable. Hammer blows produced spiral fractures identical to those in San Diego. The breaks ran clean and deep, with cone flakes and notched edges matching the ancient bones. When the same bones were crushed by modern construction equipment, the pattern changed. The fractures were chaotic, splintered, and lacked the telltale spiral signature. The team also checked the ground itself. The sediment layers encasing the bones and stones were undisturbed. their fine laminations unbroken since the Pleistocene. No sign of modern mixing, no evidence that the bones had been churned up by recent activity. Each detail, from the uranium thorium dates to the fracture experiments, was scrutinized and replicated. The Cerutti site had passed every test the scientists could devise. The evidence was no longer just a collection of strange bones and battered stones. It was a rigorously defended claim, grounded in laboratory proof and experimental replication. The publication in the journal Nature on April 26, 2017, put the Cerutti Mastodon site at the center of a scientific storm. The journal's prestige guaranteed attention, but the claim that hominins intentionally broke bones in California 130,000 years ago sparked immediate resistance from the archaeological establishment. Within days, critics voiced doubts in letters and commentaries, many arguing that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. The most vocal, Dr. Michael Waters of Texas A&M, dismissed the findings as a misreading of natural processes. He pointed to the lack of stone tools and questioned whether construction equipment during the 1992 dig could have fractured the bones and scattered the cobbles. Dr. Todd Suravel at the University of Wyoming echoed these doubts, publishing experiments that suggested trampling or geological forces could mimic Cerutti's breakage patterns. Others, including C. Vance Haynes, drew on decades of mammoth site research to argue that spiral fractures and battered stones could result from buried bones jostled by ancient streams or herds of large animals. For the Cerutti team, the backlash was both personal and professional. Dr. Tom Demir and Dr. Steve Holand spent more than 2 decades assembling their case, only to see it dismissed as statistical noise or the product of modern disturbance. Their defense was relentless. They offered open access to the specimens, published detailed experimental protocols, and mounted a museum exhibit laying out every fracture and cobble for public scrutiny. Yet the core critique remained. No other North American site shows such early evidence, and without a second find, the Cerutti claim stands alone. The debate spilled into conferences, journals, and classrooms, with the site serving as a litmus test for how far science will stretch to accommodate the unexpected. For many, the controversy became less about bones and stones and more about the boundaries of belief in the face of paradigm-busting data. The Cerutti Mastodon site's age does more than challenge the timeline. It cracks open the question of who, if anyone, could have left such a mark on ancient California. Modern humans had not yet crossed out of Africa 130,000 years ago. By every accepted migration model, the Americas should have been empty of hands that wielded tools. Yet the bones and stones at Cerutti suggest a presence, a population that left no trace but fractured bone and battered rock, and then vanished without a footprint or a single strand of DNA. Among the possible candidates, Neanderthals come to mind first. Their range stretched from Western Europe into the cold forests of Siberia, and their bones have been found in the Altai Mountains, nearly 4,000 miles from San Diego. But no Neanderthal fossil or tool has surfaced in Northeast Asia or Beringia from this era. Denisovans, known mostly from genetic clues and a handful of teeth and bones in Siberia and Tibet, lived as recently as 130,000 years ago, but their presence fades before reaching the Pacific Rim. Homo erectus, the great traveller of the ancient world, survived in parts of East Asia until about 100,000 years ago, but their northernmost sites fall far short of the frozen land bridges that would one day connect continents. During the Eemian Interglacial, the Bering Land Bridge lay deep underwater, cut off by rising seas. Any crossing would have demanded a journey by water, with boats or rafts capable of braving hundreds of miles of open ocean. No evidence survives for such technology among archaic hominins. If a population did reach California, it left no campsites, no tools, no bones, only a silent record in the shattered remains of a mastodon. The possibility lingers. A ghost lineage, neither Neanderthal nor Denisovan, may have entered the Americas, flourished in the shadows, and disappeared without a trace. The Cerutti site offers no names, only the unsettling suggestion that the peopling of the Americas may have begun long before anyone imagined, by hands now lost to history. Today, mainstream science still rejects the Cerutti site's implications, but every year, new evidence surfaces showing ancient migrations were far more complex than textbooks admit. If a ghost population once crossed oceans to reach America, our origin story is not just incomplete, it is waiting to be rewritten. What do you think?